Welcome to the Deep Dive. Today we're looking at a really pivotal document, one that's gained almost symbolic status in the history of 9/11. It's called the Phoenix Memo.
That's right. It was essentially this stark warning, wasn't it? Sent by an FBI agent.
Very dedicated agent, yeah. And it pointed to this critical vulnerability really just months before the attacks happened. So our mission today, if you will, is to unpack this memo, try to understand, why wasn't it acted on, and maybe what lessons it taught us about, intelligence failures and the reforms that came after.
And it's interesting because you said warning, but it wasn't like a smoking gun memo, right? It didn't have names, dates, specific targets.
No, not that specific.
It was more of a strategic analysis, a hypothesis really, but a chilling one. The idea that bin Laden and Al-Qaeda were actively exploiting U.S. flight schools.
And its story really is, a profound case study. Shows how these systemic weaknesses, these cracks in the system can lead to,
catastrophe.
Okay, so let's get into it. Our story starts with Special Agent Kenneth Williams down in Phoenix.
Right. A veteran agent, lots of counterterrorism experience.
And importantly, he was kind of an outsider to the main Al-Qaeda task forces back then.
Which, maybe surprisingly, gave him a fresh look. He wasn't sort of boxed in by the existing theories about bin Laden's plans.
So what did he see?
Well, it's May 2001. He's reviewing case files, standard procedure. But he starts noticing something odd. He later described it as an inordinate number, his words, of individuals with, let's say, potential investigative interest.
Okay.
Who are all enrolling in aviation training in the U.S.
And that struck him as weird.
Highly unusual, yeah. Why would, radical militants travel halfway across the world for very expensive flight training unless
there was some bigger plan, a coordinated effort.
Exactly, some larger purpose.
But crucially, he wasn't thinking, like so many others, about planes being used as missiles, that failure of imagination, as it's called.
No, his thinking was more conventional, perhaps, but still catastrophic. He feared infiltration.
Sabotage from within.
Hijacking.
Right. That kind of threat.
So this led him to pose the question, right? What if this is deliberate Al-Qaeda strategy?
Precisely. So July 10th, 2001, he writes up this FBI electronic communication, an EC, we call it the Phoenix Memo now. And its purpose, stated very clearly, was to tell the Bureau, FBI headquarters, and the New York office about this possibility of a coordinated effort by bin Laden to send students here to the U.S., specifically for civil aviation schools.
And he backed it up, right? This wasn't just a hunch.
Oh, absolutely. Compelling evidence. He detailed, I think, 10 individuals where you could see links between extremist views and this interest in flying.
Wow. Any standouts?
Yeah, there's one key subject, an aeronautical engineering student at Embry-Riddle, a big aviation university. This student was known to support bin Laden, was involved with a radical group whose leader had actually issued a fatwa calling for jihad against airports.
Against airports specifically, yeah. And Williams noted they even found photos of bin Laden in this guy's apartment. Another subject had contact with a pretty high-level Al-Qaeda lieutenant, Abu Zubaydah.
So real connections, not just vague suspicions.
Definitely not vague. And importantly, Williams didn't just flag the danger. He offered solutions.
Proactive ones?
Very proactive. He recommended HQ compile a nationwide list of flight schools, build relationships with them, share intelligence across the community, even check visa info for students.
That sounds like common sense now, but back then.
It was a direct challenge to how the FBI mostly worked, very reactive, case by case. This was about prevention, connecting dots nationally.
Okay, so here's where the story turns, frustrating. He sends the memo. What happens?
Well, first off, he marked it routine.
Routine. Why?
Because he didn't have, an imminent plot detail, no specific, they're hitting this target next Tuesday kind of thing. So routine handling. Went to HQ and the New York field office.
And
they basically dismissed it. Call it speculative, not particularly significant. They were stuck on the idea bin Laden might need pilots for transport planes, not for attacks.
Okay. And at headquarters. Worse.
Even more tragic, really, it landed in the FBI's old computer system, the Automated Case Support System, or ACS.
I remember hearing about ACS.
It was designed for managing criminal cases, tracking evidence, court dates.
Yeah.
Totally inadequate for intelligence analysis, for connecting disparate pieces of information like this.
So this critical warning just goes into the machine.
And gets assigned by an administrative clerk based on alphabetical order.
You're kidding, alphabetical.
Not kidding. And the main discussion it sparked at HQ wasn't about the potential threat, it was about the profiling issues. related to his visa check recommendation.
They focused on the process, not the danger.
Pretty much. And then, the final blow. August 7th, 2001, less than a month after Williams wrote it, barely 5 weeks before 9/11. The lead generated by the Phoenix Memo was officially closed.
Closed. Did any senior managers even see it?
Nope. Never reached them.
Unbelievable. And this wasn't happening in a vacuum, right? This is the summer of threat.
Exactly. Which makes the failure even harder to stomach. Just weeks after Williams' memo went nowhere, you have the Minneapolis FBI office arresting Zacarias Moussaoui. August 15th.
The guy trying to learn to fly a 747 simulator.
With zero prior flying experience. Yeah. Highly suspicious. And the Minneapolis agents, they explicitly told HQ they feared he was part of a plot to, and I quote, get control of an airplane and crash it.
Direct echo of the fears, even if Williams' specific mechanism was slightly different. So what did HQ do with that warning?
The very same unit, the same counterterrorism unit at HQ that had received and basically ignored the Phoenix Memo.
Oh no.
They repeatedly blocked Minneapolis' attempts, their desperate attempts, as Agent Colleen Rowley later put it, to get a warrant to search Moussaui's laptop.
Block them.
Bureaucracy, legal hurdles, maybe skepticism. But here's the kicker. An intelligence operations specialist in that same unit actually pulled up and printed the Phoenix Memo while this whole fight over Moussaoui's laptop was going on.
They had the memo, physically had it.
Accessed it, printed it, but failed to connect Moussaoui's simulator training with Williams's warning about terrorists in flight schools. The connection wasn't made.
Wow. So the crucial what if. What if someone had put those two pieces together?
You have to think it would have changed things, right?
Yeah.
They were two powerful contemporaneous warnings. Put them together, they reinforce each other. It likely overcomes the skepticism, the bureaucratic inertia, maybe triggers a nationwide alert.
And don't forget the president's daily brief on August 6th.
Right. Bin Laden determined to strike in U.S. It explicitly warned about suspicious activity consistent with hijacking preparations.
So the context was screaming red alert.
And the Phoenix Memo was arguably the single most concrete piece of FBI evidence supporting that PDB warning at that moment. But it never got shared upwards or connected sideways. It stayed lost in the system.
Until after 9/11, when was it rediscovered?
May 2002. And then Colleen Rowley's whistleblower letter came out, explicitly linking the handling of the Phoenix Memo to the Moussaoui case failures. That ignited a firestorm.
Understandably, the 9/11 Commission looked into it.
They did, and their conclusion was clear. A major missed opportunity.
And that consensus, that painful realization, it actually drove change, didn't it?
Absolutely. It provided a huge impetus for sweeping reforms at the FBI, a fundamental shift in mission towards preventing attacks, not just investigating after the fact, building a real intelligence program, breaking down those internal walls, the stovepipes that stopped information from flowing.
So, bringing it back to us, to you listening now, what's the enduring lesson here?
I think the Phoenix Memo remains this incredibly vital and, yes, sobering case study. It's just such a powerful reminder that you can have brilliant insights, dedicated agents seeing the threat. But if the organization itself isn't set up, isn't cultured to receive, understand, and crucially act on that intelligence,
then it's worthless.
Exactly, it gets lost. True national security isn't just about gathering secrets. It's about building the systems and fostering the culture to make sense of those secrets and act decisively before it's too late.
A really crucial lesson, and not just for intelligence agencies, right? For any large organization dealing with complex, evolving threats. Well, that's all the time we have for this deep dive. We hope we've given you some things to think about.